OG Rose here, and today we're going to be talking about a paper called Innovating Credentials on breaking up the college monopoly. Colleges currently have a monopoly on credentials. If you want to get a high-paying job, if you want a new career path, anything like that, you're expected to have to go to college. Well, we understand in capitalism that monopolies can be a problem. They can be bad. They can result in price manipulation, high prices, a lack of innovation, and a lot of market inefficiencies. And yet we don't seem to mind that colleges have a monopoly on credentials. I don't think it's very often recognized. Peter Thiel makes this point where he says colleges are just these kind of long, hidden IQ tests in disguise, and also points how it's legally risky to have it in what's called employment testing. That is, you go to a job, they give you a test to see if you're competent, and then they'll let you in or not based on how you perform. This paper is going to say we need something like that. And don't get me wrong, there are some Silicon Valley businesses and different things that are starting to find ways to engage in employment testing without the legal risks. But we need more of it. And I think there are a lot of benefits we will get. First off, I think colleges would be more efficient if they couldn't just rest on the laurels of their monopoly on credentials. They'd actually have to prove their worth. And I think also prices would certainly come down because you would break down that monopoly. And right now, college debt is a huge issue in this country, and I think it could be fixed. I think also if you had more avenues by which to receive qualifications, such as employment testing, what happens to a person in their early 20s or 20s wouldn't determine the projection of their entire life. It's kind of crazy that what you do in these, say, 4 years or your early 20s and your later teens can have such a big impact on the rest of your trajectory of your life course. And it seems very arbitrary. Also, if you have people that don't have as much privilege or they've suffered certain setbacks that were not faults of their own, their life can still be forever altered because of what happened in their early life. And that seems silly, and it also seems inefficient. It just seems kind of arbitrary that, let's say you have someone when they're 33 who has taught themselves how to code. Why can't they go down to a local business and get the job? And it's required that they have a college degree. Well, why? If they're capable of doing it and they can take a test and prove it, why should they need a degree? In fact, the person who taught themselves might be more competent than the college-educated person who simply rode in on privilege. So it seems like it's inviting inefficiency. If you had employment testing as well, you'd have a larger pool of applicants. I think another thing that's interesting to me is the idea that teachers. I mean, can you imagine being a teacher and let's say someone's not doing well in high school, but you know that if you give them a B, their chances of getting into an elite college are gone forever? I mean, there's such a pressure on teachers that, and I do wonder if that contributes to grade inflation, because all the teachers know that kids' destiny is forever altered by college, and so they can be very hesitant to grade in a manner that isn't just kind of pushing them forward. I think also we have this big problem where the destiny of younger kids is tied to schooling and good schooling, because that has a big impact on if they get into a good college, and that particularly hurts minorities, and I think that's quite kind of silly. I think also, too, if you can take an employment test and you could change your career path or job at any point, if you chose in your 20s, say, to go into investment banking and then you found out you didn't like it, well, currently you're kind of stuck unless you're going to go back to college. But if you had employment testing, break up the college monopoly, you would have more options. You wouldn't be kind of stuck in something that happened in the past. And also anyone could start any career at any age, potentially. It would just be a matter of educating themselves. Or, I'm not saying that colleges can't exist, but if they existed, they would really have to prove themselves. They just couldn't rest on the laurels of giving out credentials. And maybe everyone who went to college would be the ones who got the highest scores on the employment test. Well, that would right then and there in the debate on if college actually adds value, because these people are pulling it off, as opposed to them getting the best jobs by mere fact of having the degrees, and therefore there's no competition. They just get it because they have the degrees. I think also, too, every business under this circumstance would be its own potential retraining school. There's a lot of talk of the need for training schools for adults to get new skills. Well, every business could potentially provide that if they need more employees, and all you would have to do is pass an employment test, or they could hook up with stuff that's going on YouTube. Then I think it would be easier to have retraining schools and things like that. I also think programs like affirmative action wouldn't be so controversial because right now, if you don't get into a good college, your whole destiny might be at risk. Well, if that wasn't the case, then the massive weight or the massive challenges or social debate that we have over stuff like affirmative action wouldn't be so bad because people's entire lives would not feel destined by what happens in college. I think also, I think colleges have kind of an identity crisis too. It's not clear if they exist in order to get you a job or to make you a full human being, to make you educated or to make you employable. Well, if the monopoly on credentials was removed from colleges and put in the hands of businesses and employment tests, then colleges could just focus on educating people. They wouldn't have this identity crisis as much as they currently have. I also think it would certainly reduce the stress of applying to college and getting in. That would be a good thing. I think also it may, if we break up this monopoly, help us focus on the quality of ideas in of themselves as opposed to the status of the person uttering ideas. I think we are trained by the school system to look for status, to look for credentials that are given by these systems, where if you have a society that is habituated and trained by employment testing, we would be better habituated and better trained to look at the quality of ideas in businesses themselves, not just people's credentials. There's a lot more points in the paper. I just wanted to go over some here. Please find the rest of it and the points at ogrose.com. And thank you for your time.